9 years, eh?
It'll be 9 years.
How are you?
For a while.
I can look up when your term is.
I've been office.
Providence website.
I introduce you to my wife, so now I have to say hello every time I come in. Otherwise, she's going to ask, how's Ray doing?
She was so nice. You have such a wonderful wife.
I think it's right.
Yeah,
April of 22.
I think
Yeah,
Tyler and
okay.
we'll ask him, and they said, well,
What day is it?
we'll get some of the stuff.
It just says April of 22.
You don't have to look it up, Scarlett.
You beat me to it?
Tyler got it.
Good.
April 22.
4 months.
Get rid of me, guys.
No. They're re-enlist. No, we're gonna draft them.
I ought to check to see in the bylaws if there's term limits. Or you might want to put them in if you don't want to stay.
We'll have to wait till he didn't come for 1 week. I guess to forget to pick him up.
I actually do think there are term limits.
Yeah, I re-enlisted another term. You guys be carrying me up the stairs. Now that I'm 90, guys, it's,
Wow. 90 and going strong.
I don't know, I'm going strong. I got my steroid shot in my back today, so thank you.
Where did you go from here?
And I probably need to periodically.
You just,
This old man.
We do just-
I just pressed to get out because it was, is this the current one? Yeah,
and all you did was click the
I just pressed the button to get out of different things. So
Well, it's 6 o'clock. Let's go ahead and get ourselves started. We have a quiet house tonight, so
I can just say
that way, well, I'm trying to get to my.
We'd like the house to stay that way. Sir,
he's doing it.
sir, fortune. We'd like you to stay quiet. You're the only one here. Okay, there's 3 of you.
Bill, would you mind leading us in the pledge of allegiance? No problem. I'd like to welcome everyone, and if you could join me in the pledge of allegiance, that would be great.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I also would like to go ahead and introduce the members of the Planning Commission. We have down here at this end, Bob Terry. Next to me is Brian Marble. I'm joined by Rowan Cecil, Tyler Riggs, and also Joe Chambers. Welcome all of you here. And correct me if I'm wrong, we have 5 for voting. So Tyler, you're the alternate, is that right? For tonight, so you can give us your input and thoughts and help us along the way.
You're lost.
In my help.
So,
Watch Joe.
okay. What I'd like to do is take a look at the approval of our minutes. Has everybody had a chance to look at those?
I move that we approve minutes for December 22nd, 2021.
Okay, any discussion?
Oh, that looked good.
Everything look good?
They look good when I read them.
I'll second it.
Second, we have a motion to accept the minutes from the December 22nd, 2021 by Rowan Cecil, and a second by Brian Marble, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion-
One abstention, because I was not here. I'm not gonna go comment on it.
Thank you. All right. The next item we'll go to is the public comments. The gentleman that just joined us, I imagine you're with addressing an issue, or are you just visiting?
I'm number 5.
Number 5, okay. All right. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to make any public comments at this time? If not, thank you. Do we have anybody online or any emails that we should address?
I don't have anyone online, so I think I think Scarlett's looking up the email. So
I don't have any.
Nobody there. Well, gentlemen, our excitement has died down. We may have to get Kathleen back here to get the excitement up. Have her come and visit us, but anyway, we'll push forward. So if there's no other comments anybody would like to make, we'll go ahead and close the public comments and move to a public hearing item. This item is item number 1, amending PCC 10-13 accessory dwelling units. The Planning Commission to take comments and questions regarding a request to amend the PCC 1013 accessory dwelling units. Setbacks request seeks to change the setback. The request is being to seek to change the setback requirements from their current. Is there anybody that would like to comment on that?
Chair, I don't think we have the applicant. This comes with the applicant for a code change, and I don't think we have the applicant present with us. And so we generally, but I think where we've noticed this, it would be, and obviously let people talk if they want to, but just so that you know, I don't think we have the applicant that applied for this here.
If we, I know that we have it as a legislative item. I was wondering if, because we advertised it, that we needed to present it, maybe if anybody had any comment.
Yeah, I just wanted for the record that if the applicant's not here,
Not present.
so we should note that.
Okay. Well, if nobody has anything, then we will close the public hearing aspect for public comment for it. And then also, because the applicant is not here, we would table this item number 2 under legislative action, as he's not here for us to move forward with it. Would that be right, Scarlett?
That's certainly,
Kind of the policy we've
Yes.
taken?
Don't we have to have a motion to do so?
yes, a motion would be appropriate.
Okay.
The question on that one was, if you want it to come up on a future agenda, you can table it with a motion. If you want it to die because they haven't come and they've been skipped a few times, you could pass it, not put it on, and it would die for lack of action. I think that, I don't know whether it goes,
Or you could recommend, you could make a recommendation of denial, or you could make a
Yeah.
recommendation if you wanted to,
right,
because the council is the final say. But you certainly, I know that Mr. Beckett was aware of the meeting because he came and talked to me. I apologize, I think it was a week ago. And
Yeah.
so maybe he's running late, I don't know.
Well, I would hate to, in my opinion, I'd like to hear from everybody else before we take any action on it.
I have some comments. I have, as long as we're not,
Going to pursue it, that, yeah.
might consider bumping it to the end of the agenda in case he does it right
Does
away.
he? That's right.
Yeah.
I know he travels a great deal. And it's been hard. He did come to one of the last meetings we had and was very active in presenting and pursuing it, but we can't just keep pushing it. But I like that. So is everybody in agreement that we would push it to the end of the meeting?
Yeah.
End of our items?
Sure.
Just a point of clarification, is this the one that has the already built property?
Yes. And Yes, and kind of move forward with it with the understanding that there were going to be things, and he's kind of in between what things would be now. So, and it's inside a shed shop type building. So if it was that, that could be the ADU could actually move with inside the unit. But I don't want to get into too much discussion about it. We'll see if we hear from him, if he calls in, logs in, and give him a chance. All right.
We're holding it till the end of the meeting. Right?
Holding it till the end of the meeting. Okay. All in favor of that, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Let's move to item number 3. This is the final plat for Spring Creek Townhomes. The Providence City Planning Commission will consider and possibly approve the final plat and development plan for Spring Creek Townhomes, a mixed-use development containing 87 townhome units and 7,324 square foot of retail office space located on approximately 5.91 acres in the general area of 265 North Gateway Drive.
They're not here, are they, Ryan? I mean, they're not on Zoom, are they?
They're not on Zoom. So
The applicant is not here at this point in time.
Okay.
I don't know if you want to deal with the 2 applicants that are here
Yeah.
and then
See if they show up.
these guys make it. So
I think we should. The most important thing that we should do, especially as I'm learning everything, is do our best to be consistent. So I would recommend that we hold this item as well. Item number 3.
What we do, so.
Who is there, number 5 and
4 and 5. Okay,
I will move, we
Thank you.
move them out of order, and take them numerically 4 and 5.
I second it.
all right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Item number 4, Providence City Center Revised Development Plan. The Providence City Planning Commission will consider and possibly approve the revised development plan for Lot 1, the Providence City Center, a mixed-use development containing 30 multifamily dwelling units and retail office space located on 10.18 approximate acres in the general area of 27 North Gateway Drive. So we would invite Scarlett to come up and give us an update at this time, and then we do have the applicant here with us representing.
I hear a elevator working, or maybe somebody coming.
Okay.
okay. This, as you may remember, on December 20, on December 22nd, the applicant presented an affidavit that they had prepared, accepting the rules, regulations, standards, etc. Providence City Ordinance number 2021-0012. That was the ordinance changing the mixed use development. And so that it's at their request that they wanted to revise their Lot 1 site plan. That's the only site plan we're talking about tonight is Lot 1. The other lots are commercial, and they'll come in for their individual site plans as the property is developed. Yes. So, so the total project area for this, even though the subdivision is larger, the total project area for Lot 1 is 1.88 acres with a total of 30 units, and that's 16 units per per acre. The parking, so it's well under the 25 unit per acre density. The parking provided, or the parking required, is 1.5 stalls per unit. The parking provided is 4 per unit with the 2-car garage and 2 driveway stalls. They're building with the 18-foot driveways as was put into place. The total building area is 25,844 square feet. Total landscape area is 24,035 square feet for 29%. Total parking and driveway areas make up the balance of the 39% of with 32,013 square feet. As you can see in the staff report, it goes through the various, highlights the various codes. And on page 4 of the staff report, the applicant was asked to provide a data for the conditions. Well, actually, I'll read the conclusions. Providence City has enacted ordinances for land use regulation. Providence City General Plan shows this area as a city core with a 5 to 10 minute mixed use node. The proposed plan is consistent with the zoning requirements with the conditions listed below. Talks about commercial site development. This is not applicable for the revision of lot 1. The design standards for multifamily. The proposed revision meets the requirements of Providence City Code 1089 as amended by Providence City Ordinance 013-2021 adopted on 10/20/21 with the conditions listed below. Excuse me. Anyway, so they needed to provide a data table for sheet A201 verifying compliance with Providence City Code 1089B4BI and on the exterior finishes. They did, and that is included, that data table is included in your packet, showing that they meet the newer standards of facade requirement. They show that that's the summary. Where's the data table? I know it's in here. Actually, I don't see it. I know they submitted it. I'll have to look at my information. So I'm going to talk about the facade. Yeah. That would work. Yes, it was submitted. I definitely know it was submitted. Yes. So the exterior, the total exterior wall has a square footage of 4,983. The total required brick is 2,492. The total brick provided, 2,547. The percent of the front face as brick is 75%. So they meet that standard, and I apologize that that table is not in. They did turn that table in, so they met that condition. They also show the needed to show the play area and the area required for that, and they accommodated that. They also added their declaration of covenants, conditions, and restrictions for the subdivision so that we could see what their plans are for the entire subdivision. It talks about lot 2, lot 3, and lot 4 as well, to show that they will continue to meet the use percentages. They've provided you with the elevations. I actually, when I was talking to the developer, I said, I think you sent those in grayscale, and the buildings are black and white, so it is color. That's the color that they're going to be. And then I'm going to let David Knight address the bicycle repair and maintenance station, and they've addressed the comments in Aaron Walker's letter dated 1/4/2022. And our final condition is, well, 2 conditions. They need to address comments and/or conditions from other staff members and the Planning Commission The applicant will continue to meet all relevant federal, state, county, Providence City rules, laws, codes, ordinances. Approval by the city of any submitted application or paperwork does not alleviate the owners and or their agents from their responsibility to understand, conform to local, state, and federal laws. Providence City's approval is not intended to and cannot be construed to allow any laws to be violated. And just keep in mind that what you're reviewing here is just the site plan. We're not amending the subdivision plat at all. The subdivision lot stays intact the way it was originally approved. We're just amending the site plan. They've reduced the number of units down to 30. And so, and then they've, like I said, they've added the landscaping, they've added the exterior finishes to meet the new requirements. Questions?
Yes, anything? Anybody, any questions for Scarlett or the staff? Thank you very much, Scarlett.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And I believe we have representative here. If you'll come up and state your name and
My name is Dave Knight. I live in Providence. So thank you for your time tonight.
appreciate you being here.
Of course.
Is there anything you want to add to
No.
what Scarlett did?
No, Scarlett and her staff do a great job.
I'll open it up to the.
Can you tell us about the bike stations first?
Yeah,
I think for the city.
you bet. Yeah, so we've on the plan, I don't know if on that one it shows on the revised one, we sent it to Scarlett.
One or two?
Bike stations?
Yeah.
One.
It's on the back. Get it there.
I think it's
Called PSS. One.
I'm not sure where you're looking. I know on the updated one that we had submitted in that was sent in with some of this other data that it's listed right there. Actually kind of where the mailbox station will be. So right there, kind of along the sidewalk, east of that first row of townhomes that are right there. There will be a bike repair station.
Could you go point to it?
You bet.
We saw a couple of things that right down there. Okay. We're up a little low, a little higher.
Is it marked as a bike station?
Not on this one,
Yeah.
but there was a more recent one that was submitted that it does indicate where it's at, as well as the child play areas and some of these other stuff that the staff
Yeah.
had requested.
Okay.
So it is on that latest one that was submitted.
Any other questions or comments?
You're going to include what in a bike station?
Whatever's necessary. So for the storage of the bikes, because we have garages with each unit, we don't have to have a bike rack or storage, but we do need a repair station on that, as indicated. And so we'll do whatever's necessary on that.
There'll be a bike rack there for bicycles.
There'll be a bike rack and bike repair station as necessary. So
So can have the bike on and then you're gonna try to put the air on, an air compressor there or not?
I'm not sure on that. Nope. I mean, this bike requirement is new to us as well.
Yeah.
But we're going to meet whatever requirement there is for that.
Well, and I would imagine you'll have somebody overseeing that. If somebody's got a bike there or just left it.
For the bike station?
Yeah, and the line starts building up, come on,
Right.
100 here, on there.
Right. You bet. I suppose. I don't know how that all works,
Yeah,
but
I think we'll have to figure that out along some of those things.
Have you seen any of the other ones at some of the other developments?
I have not yet.
Do we
Would it
have
be-
some others in the
I would
city?
say we would be interested to see what else has been done. So, because it's still a process that, as we go through the construction of it, that we're going to work out those details.
This
One in
will be the first one
For City of Providence.
that is coming in as part of a development. I don't know if somebody else
Yeah.
put one in on their own. The other thing I might mention is they are aware of the electronic vehicle charging stations, but again, because they have all garages, they're not required an extra one for the residential. You'll see that though when it comes in for the commercial site plans.
So there is a bike station at Green Canyon up by the restrooms. Want to take a look?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Green
Yes.
Canyon High School.
Pardon me?
Green Canyon High School?
No, Green Canyon, the entrance to Green Canyon itself.
Oh,
There's one at Cafe Ibis. It's pretty well done
Oh,
as
yeah.
well, across the street in that fire station parking lot.
awesome. Thank you for that reference.
All right. Any other comments you'd like to
No,
bring up or issues?
I think the changes that we've made are
Yeah.
great. I think it's going to be a good development. We're excited about it, both for this residential part that we're talking about tonight, as well as, the commercial side that will come later. But
And we will see them again, Scarlett, as they come in with other plans or in regards to the structures and so forth.
As they come in with the commercial, you had their,
We've seen the others and they've
you've
just
seen the
increased
townhomes,
the brick and so forth
right, and
because of that to meet the current.
you saw their new landscaping
Right.
layout. And so you won't see any more of the residential.
That we will see on the commercial.
Yes,
And you guys are ready to get started? Moving along with it?
yes, yeah, things are on both sides.
Yeah.
Residential and commercial, things are moving forward.
All right. I'd entertain a motion unless anyone has any more other questions.
I move we approve the final plat.
Revised.
Approve it.
Revised. development.
Oop, then, wrong line. Move we approve the revised development plan for the Providence City Center, a mixed-use development containing 30 multifamily dwelling units and a retail office space with the conditions listed by Scarlett.
Can I ask for one clarification on that? Could you say the development plan for lot 1?
For lot one, it didn't make it in.
Oh, goodness. Okay, revised development plan for lot 1 for the Providence City Center. Which one? Oh, do we have findings of fact on this one?
We still have.
There was findings of fact and the conditions,
Conclusions of law.
one conclusions of law.
Perfect. I've got a motion.
Okay.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Thank you.
There's one comment that I'd like to make. Since this is one of the first that's going through it, I'd like any positive feedback sent to the staff office that they could share with the planning commission as to problems that you think you've seen or things that we should consider or things we should remove. Just, we'd like, since you're doing.
You bet. Yeah, thank you.
I know that
Thank you
may
for that,
take
Joe.
some time, but if you can get around to it, really appreciate it. I would.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And
Thank you
for
very
your time.
much. Appreciate it. Okay. We will go ahead and move on to item number 5. This is the final plat for the Providence Springs 55 plus cluster development. The Planning Commission will consider and possibly approve a final plat for Providence Springs 55 plus cluster development, a 30-lot single-family detached cluster development on approximately 7.68 acres located in the general area of 300 North, 100 East. Scarlett, we'd invite you up to bring us up to date.
Okay, so you approved the preliminary plat for this on December 1st, 2021. A couple of the key issues. The HOA will be responsible for maintaining the common areas of the project, and the developer plans to complete this in one phase. There are a couple of things that actually need to be taken care of as the staff finishes the reviewing. We will make sure that the statement on the expenses is written the way it needs to be on the plat, and the city engineer will verify the boundary descriptions, and we'll also make sure that the statement about the minimum improvements is on the plat. So those conditions, we'll make sure that we hold the developer to those. The developer will need to address any comments and or conditions excuse me, from the planning commissioner or other staff members. And I did ask our city engineer if he had any other comments. He did not. He said his would be construction plan related, not final plat related. Prior to the plat being recorded, the construction plans must be approved and signed. The application for development and public improvement installation must be completed. Covenants and conditions and restrictions must be ready to record. That application, as soon as I get the go ahead from the city engineer on the construction drawings, I'll incorporate that. It takes the place of a development agreement when the city is not participating in anything. So we'll get that taken care of. And then the applicant will continue to meet all relevant federal, state, county, Providence city rules, laws, codes, ordinances, excuse me. Approval by the city of any application or paperwork submitted does not alleviate the owners and or their agents from their responsibility to understand and conform to local, state, and federal laws. Providence city's approval is not intended to and cannot be construed to allow any laws to be violated. So
Thank you. You need a drink of water?
I have one. It's just, I don't know, some smell has got my eyes in my
Well,
throat.
it could be Brother Cecil's cologne, but
It could be.
Where did that come
I gave
I
him
don't
a
know.
ride.
It might even be the hand lotion I put on before I came back. I don't know, but something's got my eyes watering.
Thank you very much.
All right,
I just
thank
know we
you.
got to take care of it. Any questions for Scarlett before? Thank you very much, Scarlett. I appreciate it.
Okay.
And I believe we have representative here.
Oh, I'm sorry, Scarlett. I got a quick question. The irrigation on this, have they signed off or do they need to sign off since it's the end of a ditch, isn't it? Lateral.
Yeah, we have involved the irrigation companies
Yeah.
Okay.
in
And
the,
all of it.
And are they going to dump? They're going to use this as a dump for the end of the ditch? Or does it just continue on through until it gets to Spring Creek?
you mean, are they going to accept the wastewater?
Yes.
I'm gonna let Jody answer how they plan to do that.
Okay.
Okay, Jody, please, if you come on up and just state your name for the record and
Jody Robbins from Providence.
thank you. Okay. Do you want to address that question as he brought it up? And
Yeah, we have a plan to bypass where it currently dumps in the southeast corner of the development. We're going to pipe it over into kind of the wetlands area so that it continues through in the natural drainage. If you'd like, I can walk over and show you on.
No, I'm just curious whether you're going to go ahead and accept the water into the area or whether it just continues right on by the property.
We're planning on accepting it into the area where it has historically been accepted in that area. We'll continue to accept it in that area.
Could you point that out for me?
Yes, gladly. Currently, it comes in right here and just kind of flows across.
Yeah.
We're planning on putting in a stormwater or irrigation pipe that runs down. There's an existing box right here that collects from a different ditch here, and it has an outlet that just goes to nothing. It's just a drain. So we're actually going to change that outlet. So instead of going 20 feet this way, it's going to come in here and exit out into this area so it can flow through the natural wetlands.
Thank you.
all right. Any other questions? ideas, concerns? This will be for final approval. If everything looks good.
I'd like to make one more comment.
Sure.
The only changes we've made to this from the preliminary plat, we actually dropped 2 lots and added more open space, mostly for stormwater detention area. But in dropping those lots, we optimized the size of the remaining lots. So our floor plans, the 3-car garage fits on it
Good.
better than it did before. And then there's certain lots set aside for 2-car garages where those plans fit on those lots very, very well.
That sounds great.
What was the challenge with the open space on the north side? It's called open space, 0.33 acres. What was the challenge there?
If she scrolls up just a little bit, originally we had scroll so we can see.
North lot.
Yeah, originally, do you mind if I just walk over and point it out?
Go right ahead.
Originally, we were planning on having the stormwater detention along this area. It just wasn't quite enough space. So we had, in order to accommodate the space, we got rid of this lot, turned the entire thing into stormwater detention, and made these 2 lots deeper.
So it'll be dug out as a catch basin.
A catch basin, fully landscaped. Fully landscaped catch basin, more like a open space park area. When it's wet, I wouldn't recommend walking in the bottom of it, but most of the time it will remain dry.
And where will the water go underneath the remaining parcel? Is that just going to flow down to the pond that's there?
Exactly. That remaining parcel it's all wetlands, so we didn't want to adversely affect any portion of that, and the areas that are not wetlands flow into the wetlands.
It looks good. Got, how many springs in there? We got 1, 2, 3 springs?
3.
3 springs.
I didn't know why this was called Spring City when it was first.
All right. If nobody has any other questions or items to discuss about it, I'd entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that I can see the words correctly. And the motion is I could just make a motion that we accept the final plat for Providence Spring 55+ cluster development. A 30-lot single-family detached cluster development, generally at 300 North, 100 East Providence, Utah. Final plat, and that would include all the conditions, findings of fact, and the conclusions of law that the staff has presented to us.
I second the motion.
I have a motion by Brian and a second by Rowan. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you and congratulations very much.
Thank you guys. It's been a pleasure working with you.
Oh, you'll be back.
Oh, I know.
We live just downstairs.
I have one question. When do you think you're going to start moving any dirt or anything?
That will fully depend on the weather. It's we still have a little bit of the process with the construction drawings, but in other developments we've gotten gung ho and started a little bit early, and it just adds more time to it because it gets muddy. So I'll let my excavating contractor decide when it's dry enough, and then we'll push through as quickly as possible. So I would imagine, I'm hoping April, Yeah, depending, it will really just depend how wet this spring gets. So,
Thank you, Jody.
thank you.
Thank you. All right. There's another gentleman that came in. Did you have any comments or?
Well, I guess I was a little late and I missed.
Eli?
It's Adam.
Adam.
Yeah. Item number
I didn't
three.
read.
Sorry, yeah.
So Adam is here. This is Adam. Paul,
Over the
and
final
he was
plat
here
for the Spring Creek Town?
Yes.
Okay. Did we have you review with us, Scarlett, or is that where we would need to start?
That's where we need.
Okay, if you're ready, that would be great. This is for final plat. This is the final plat for the Spring Creek Townhomes. Item number 3, the Providence City Planning Commission will consider and possibly approve final plat and development plan for Spring Creek Townhomes, a mixed-use development containing 87 townhomes, townhome units, 7324 square feet of retail office space located on approximately 5.91 acres in the general area of 265 North Gateway Drive. I'll turn it over to Scarlett.
Now we have to shift gears back in time a bit because this development is proceeding under our previous mixed use ordinance. So this one, and Ryan, did you get that email I sent late this afternoon? I didn't realize that the other email or this packet on my computer, I was working remotely last week and it said that it went through, but apparently it didn't because it was a great big file. So,
The plats are not here, right? Is that what you're saying?
yeah, yes. And so Ryan, if he got that email, he's got the,
When would it have come?
maybe it didn't follow through at the end. It would have been about 4 o'clock, I think, 3:30.
Let's pull up here.
All right. After 40 years.
I have the ADU that came at 4:05. That's not the one you're talking about, right?
Let me look.
I was with Scarlett yesterday reviewing some stuff, so I know it was a big file. They were recommending go online and look at it.
It's 224.
You got it?
It's pulling, yeah. I think this is it.
Yes. So I don't remember which page it is, but I would like you to find the site and dimension plan. I think it's coming right. Maybe it's the very last page.
Certainly could be. Probably be the last one we look at.
As he's going through, you will see
Yeah.
the architecture and the design for everything else. They're meeting the landscaping requirements. They've shown the, one of the things that we were concerned about, we needed to make sure that they had the Spring Creek, the floodplain area marked appropriately. They've done that. The one thing that I really want the Planning Commission's input on is the way, and Adam can certainly talk to their point of view. But one of the things that there was a bit of a misunderstanding on how to figure the use percentage. And this one, unlike the one that you just approved, where no one use can be more than 50%, this one, no one use can be less than 20%. And originally they had taken the total square footage of the residential and then took 20% of that for the commercial. But what it needed to be was a combined total and then 20%. And so they made some adjustments and now they are showing This is what it looks like.
Fine.
Yeah. You want to see it?
Well, help.
There you go. So did we?
Well, lights on.
That's good.
It takes just a second.
So they didn't increase the size of the actual building, but what they did do is they made sure that all of the parking and the landscaping that has to go along with that building
Right.
was included property. And so, so now on this page, on the far right-hand side, and if you want to shift so they can read the, yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Got that divot now.
And so that's how that's showing that the retail set aside is 20%, and then you have 80% in residential. They are, again, they are below the maximum density for this development. But as far as their facade, their height, everything else, they are meeting the requirements from the ordinance that they applied under. And I will, so they are not required to have the bike station. They're not required to have the UVC. So, but I will let you chat with Mr. Paul for a minute and he can explain their methodology behind it.
Any questions for Scarlett before she gets away? Pretty good.
So what are your calculations of percentages, so I understand?
With the way that they've got them blocked out now,
Yes.
they work, yes. So, but planning commission really does have some say into the development in the mixed use. And so I just wanted to make sure that you felt like the way they're showing them by incorporating building space, landscaping space, and parking spaces, that you feel comfortable with that. So, but this will be our one and only like this one.
Right.
So,
Because it all will go on the new
right.
ordinances.
And they have not designated a children's play area either, but that wasn't in place at the time for this, but they do have their landscaping. So I will say, because I shouldn't beat a dead horse, but I really do feel bad about this one, that it does not show any connectivity to the south. To the south, not by walking path or vehicle.
Thank you, Scarlett.
Yeah.
All right, Adam, would you like to come up, and if you'll give us your full name and
Take my mask off.
absolutely.
Full name, Adam Paul, representing this project here at the Spring Creek Development.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Any questions that we'd like to ask of Adam? Any concerns or?
Last time when we first saw this, we had talked a little bit about whether there was any thoughts that you could do on the egress onto Gateway Drive. And I especially think about that today because I'm making a left turn just right by there, come this way. Had to wait 5 minutes for 2 cars in front of me to be able to get onto Gateway Drive. And I just fear for residents like trying to depart for work, going into Logan. That live in there and that getting backed up. And I just wanted to see if that was something that had been thought about. I know there may or may not be things that can be required for you to do there, but it's something that I just keep thinking about. Really want to consider maybe like a right turn only.
I thought we widened it as wide as we possibly could there, and there's a
there's 2 lanes.
So
and
you'll have a right turn lane and a left turn lane.
Yeah.
That's
That's what I
understood.
thought. I mean, it's been
Yeah.
so long since we asked for that change.
Is there a plan-
So there
plan farther?
there are 3 lanes.
I didn't include the construction plans, and that's where this will be.
So there's 3 lanes going to be on the egress from the
I
property,
think
right?
if we can find, I want to just,
You just
confirm, I
had-
believe there is, but is there? a
you just
plan?
had a, one just a moment ago, you could see that it was broad enough for 3 cars.
I didn't have anything to add a dimension.
Yeah, we requested it was broad enough to 3, but it's good to check.
I mean, this doesn't have a dimension on it. If this is what you're talking about, it's just not dimensioned, so I couldn't tell.
Right, I'm using the dimension, I can see from the housing plots.
Yeah, you can see that there's a double, and then we've widened it there.
Yeah,
But it can certainly be striped for 3 lanes as well.
Now, someplace I saw this week, we got a number of these in email, is that the entrance there, they turned it into a bell so that there was room for a couple of cars to get off of the street immediately as if there was any congestion. Is that part of it? Because I don't see it here
A
anymore.
bell,
Right as it comes off of the street, it comes into the property, that did not go parallel, the one I saw earlier this week. What
It
is
had
it?
the wings. It had the wings.
Yeah. So there was space there for cars to collect off of the road. I thought that was a great addition, but I don't see it here.
you're saying you saw that on this plan? So
This
that's
week, I saw it
This
on
week, so I don't think this is just a calculation plan. I don't think this is the
But
final,
I-
this isn't the right plan to be looking
For the
at
roadway.
for the roadway.
I did not put the civil plans in, which would be the infrastructure plans. Because, but Adam, we will check on that.
Yeah, I mean, we.
And make
we
sure
agree with that. We don't want backed up traffic.
And what we're doing here is plat, right? Plat, final plat agreement.
Mhm.
Well, it has it, we just don't have to
Right, so,
But we can condition that to confirm it's on the drawings.
right, but
Right.
it doesn't have much to do with, I mean, the road doesn't have much to do with the
The
plat.
the road doesn't have, no, that's part of the development plan. But as Adam said, you can make it a condition that you would like ingress and then 2 egress lanes, if that's,
I think-
What I
think
understand.
It's fine. It's got to come back before us for the development agreement. I'm
No.
sorry for the,
it will, this is,
We'll do the development, approval for the development. plan as well. Final plat and development.
This is development as well, so.
We'll just.
yes. So
we'll
just make
a
that condition.
Yeah.
Do we know that it's that?
Let's make, yeah, do you have the file, the plans anywhere that you could pull up that show whether or not we got that in our civil
I will repair.
as of now?
Yeah, let me go get it.
Do we need to do a traffic study on this, in this area and see what this is gonna happen, what's gonna happen, because it is getting very busy like Tyler said. It's nasty over there.
As you're looking, do you thought there's any places to charge electric cars?
Yeah, many of our garages will have, people can plug in their garage,
Everything in 2-car garage?
everything's a 2-car garage,
And everything's a 2-story
and everything is 3-story.
garage. and then all-
Garage and 2 levels above the garage, yeah. The density actually goes up, we could have done 4 stories and about 300 units on this site, so when we down densified it significantly, and I don't think a traffic study was part of the requirements, because it was already zoned to allow for so much.
I think a 4-story has the height limitation. I'm not sure whether you could have got 4-story because of height limitation.
Okay.
But-
Yeah, it was a 265, 70
Right.
unit project, yeah, we had designed, yeah. We did one way less density on that.
To make it mixed use, I think the way that the mixed use was intended
I really would like to see something, some kind of egress, walking, bike path, whatever, into the shopping area next door to it.
We don't own the
Yeah.
shopping area next door.
No, but you do own the property
Yep.
right to the edge of it.
Across the river, across the creek, sorry.
Well, and this is off of the old ordinances again, so it wasn't a requirement for it. We looked at that once before, and it'll be interesting to see what happens right in that area and how something comes about. That's the property to the west of it gets developed.
What are the plans to the west? Do we
I don't think
know?
we know that right now. Yeah,
Right.
so, but
We've
I
got a-
appreciate you being patient while we just look at that.
No, I think it's a great idea. Let's look at it. I appreciate you guys being
Yeah.
patient. I was 20 minutes late and I missed my spot.
No,
You
you're
guys
right.
are fast and
Final,
efficient.
Yeah. For issuing the final review and things, it would be good, final approval, we should
Yeah, let's
just
look at it.
look at that one piece.
You have a potential, Logan has a street through where you have an egress out there on the south side.
Correct.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, maybe I don't understand. On the west side, we
Right.
have
On the west side,
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
That's what this is.
Possible future connection.
Yes.
Would be good. There's also up there, possible connection for either bikes or footpath.
Yeah, I mean, we tried to get a connection to the north and the property owners to the north said we don't want to allow a connection to the north. And so I'd like to have their properties.
Yeah.
Cordoned off, I guess is the right definition.
But really, the mixed use kind of goes away because right now the egress for walkers, hikers, bikers, everything has got to go through that same bottleneck out there on Spring Creek. And without any future plans, because there is a street right there, right? There is a street just directly south. They're adjacent to the parking lot of Stadium 8 that could be tied into. Now, granted, you got to go across the creek and it's not your, well, one of them's your, half of it's your property.
Well, the creek is there. Creek is on their property.
Right. And so the current road is on lot or number 6 and number 5. Do they all, did you own number 5 and number 6?
I'm not,
I'll pull it up. Just give me just a sec.
Number 6 is owned by Sager's Family Limited Partnership, according to the parcel bureau, Cache County Parcel Bureau.
yeah, I'm not familiar.
Parcels.
I'm not, I'm looking up at this screen and I'm not sure what we're talking
I
about.
knew these two were.
Parcels 4 and 5, which are where the,
Let's see, this road was intended.
4 and 5 are the 2 you own with 1, right? These 3.
Correct. Yes.
So the road is here and comes and ends
Partially on our property and
Yes.
partially on someone else's property.
right there. I think that's what they're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, we don't own that piece there,
Don't own this one.
right?
I sent you the CDs.
So,
I talked,
Article 16, same ownership. Or is it a different ownership? Big 16.
4 and 5 are part of the same ownership.
No, well,
6.
6.
Lot 6 is
And then
Sager's Family Limited. Partnership.
16.
And then 16, the big one is.
That's Sager.
So is 6 Sackett too? Or is it different?
No, it's Sager's Family
Sager.
Limited Partnership.
Thank you. Okay,
I talked with Rob, and I don't know when my email will pop over here to Ryan, but on the construction plans, on the demolition plans, it shows it 35 feet wide is where they're taking the sidewalk out to replace the sidewalk for the ingress egress, or 36 feet wide. So that would be 3 12-foot lanes.
It blocked you because it was a risk.
What? It blocked me?
Outlook blocked access to the following potentially unsafe attachment.
Oh, for heaven's sakes.
Sorry.
But it reconfirmed it does show a 30, 60.
That's where it shows on the
So I
demolition.
remember that we went through that. So many months and added that. Right there.
Sounds great. All right. Anybody, any other questions concerning Joe?
This may be a stupid question.
There are none of those.
There are. It's funny though. Go ahead, Joe. Parcel 2, 171-36, which goes on to Gateway Drive, is owned by Providence City according to Cache County. I'm just curious as to what arrangements were made to use that parcel.
It's all water, isn't it?
I have no idea.
Uh,
I haven't walked it.
Can you, Ryan, can you go to the window that's behind this parcel map? Just, yeah. Thank you. So I think that those lines there indicate where the water concerns are.
Yeah, there was an early arrangement that if we needed some extra space for ingress and egress, the city said, we're happy to let you widen the ingress egress here. I can't remember what was the instrument that allowed that to happen. Look at it.
Okay, so I can see the proportionate on it a little bit better now. So the ingress and egress is just to the north of lot 36.
I think it goes through lot 36, but I think at that point, lot 36 was designed for a road, but Gateway went around.
Right.
So at that point, it was designed to be road dedication area. So I think that the city was, I mean, we're fine using that because it was designed to be road space when it was, when that property was dedicated or acquired. So that would be just like we would use other dedicated right-of-way streets to build roads. Does that make sense?
There's no stupid questions. Can the city sell it to the developer? And because otherwise there's just going to be useless land there, and they might be able to use it for beautification or for part of the ingress egress.
There's actually some infrastructure in that goes along with the creek. I can't remember exactly what we've got there, but we did talk about that early on, yes.
But it will cross the city property. It is true.
We should be willing to offer that easement, whatever they need.
Well, within reason at that point, I think that we looked at that. But that is, I mean, as we have roads that connect, this would be part of that connecting of roads. If we had extra, take for instance, 3rd South, we have the right of way already acquired in front of Barlow's, but we're requiring the developer to put in the infrastructure. We had the right of way and the access in the road. So it was the city's property, but we're asking them to develop. This is similar. It's the city's property, but we're asking them to develop that on top of that. So we do that in other places.
Yeah, I thought that was part of the arrangement, that we'd improve that area that's right now just kind of the bank of a creek. We could have moved it over and stayed away, but I think everybody thought it made a better plan to improve it.
Yeah, I could be wrong, but weren't you gonna put in a fishing pond?
Yeah, we were going to stock it. with,
Yeah, I think I could get it stocked. I think you were gonna put it, sorry.
I would actually really like that.
Sweet, could you put that in there? Because he said he liked it. Could you put that in as a condition? I'd love that. I'll get it, I'll find out how to get it stocked. You'll just make sure it's 15 feet deep.
Somebody stocked it with
Somebody put one.
somebody stocked it with a beaver.
No, actually there is lots of ways with the with the Fish and Game that they will stock ponds if you get them built adequately, and that the Fish and Game actually stocks a lot of these. So it wouldn't be out of norm to get ponds stocked. Wellsville has one that is stocked by the Fish and Game. And so there is those possibilities. It does need to be 12 to 15 feet deep to have that fish survive winter, but so.
You're talking about the Wellsville Reservoir?
Yeah, I think it's stocked.
So well stocked.
No, the reservoir, the pond, there's a pond if you go out on Wellsville. I don't know whether that's what they call it, but
Same thing.
okay.
It's at their city park.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it is heavily stocked. It's naturally stocked now. There's some great fishing going on.
So anyway, but there's abilities to get it stocked. I could get that worked out if you could get him.
You should have taken that into consideration when early negotiations
Yeah,
were underway.
right.
That was some extra stuff, but I appreciate it. Everybody good? Questions?
Just as a note, we
Sure.
do have a playground in the property for kids to use. So
Is that in the area between the
it
buildings?
is, yeah.
Yeah. I think that where it was shown before, well, it was moved from another area, but there, so that looks good. Thank you for mentioning.
You've got the entire batch to the west that can play into, I'm sure.
Yeah. we could-
That's
we're just worried about
that's a
safety
Logan
over
City
there.
Park.
Yeah, that's a Logan.
All right.
That's how Logan does it, huh? That's how everywhere parks.
Okay. Nobody has any other questions, and you don't have anything else to add, Adam?
No, just been a pleasure working with all of you and looking forward to this development.
Any other discussion we need to have about it? If not, I'll go ahead and entertain a motion.
I'd like a motion
We
that
want to discuss that,
Condition.
no, let's see. Oh, no, we took care of that. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept, approve the plat and the development agreement,
Development plan.
development plan
Final plat.
for Spring Creek Townhomes located, which is a mixed-use environment, mixed-use zoning, at approximately 265 North Gateway Drive, with all, including conditions, findings of fact, and conclusions of law. And I think we ought to have a second egress in there. Can I do that?
No,
Okay,
but I appreciate the effort.
I see. So if I wanted to do that, I would say, I would just vote against the whole thing.
Can you require?
Yes.
Not at this point.
I second this as the final plat. That's one thing you missed.
It's a final plan.
Right, yeah. Okay, so we're not going to change it then. We're not suggesting any changes beyond what's in the agreement right now. It's,
In the final plat and the development. plan.
yes,
And when you mentioned a second
egress.
are you
How
talking a
do I-
second lane?
Yeah, no, I'm talking about coming out. What's
Over
that
there?
street name? The one that goes through Stadium 8?
Yeah,
Is it private? It looks public,
It's a parking lot.
But you
right, but there's a
have,
road down the middle
you
of it.
have access to that street because of these two lots. You're part of that development.
Well, yeah, right here in front of us on the picture, it shows the road. And if nothing else, then the developer could develop half of it because half of it's on, make it usable on one side.
To put a bridge over the creek area?
Yeah, we talked about this before as well, just to refresh the discussion. It's potential wetlands and,
Right.
you know, we can't even get close to that with the bridge, yeah. And we don't know that the neighbors want access there. We don't know that we want to control ingress, egress. I think people would start driving, cutting corners through the block, to avoid traffic, and it would become, there's a lot of cons to it. There's a lot of pros to it. There's a lot of cons to it, and especially with the cost associated with bridging it, wetlands, et cetera, it just wasn't feasible. We could someday develop those lots there as more commercial space in that. And that's kind of a future plan. We need to talk to the neighbors there that own the theater, but
Which at that time, that road would then have some,
I still don't think it would go through.
yeah, I don't think it would go through either.
I would just point out that the city, within the last 2 years, has completed one crossing of Spring Creek in a similar manner, and also required another developer to cross Spring Creek in a like manner. So it's not without precedence that those two crossings of Spring Creek have been done within the last 2 years. And the UDOT will require the crossing of Little Ballard in order to have a second access into this property. They will require that because they won't allow a SR 165 entry within, they won't allow two of them. So they're talking about requiring another access across in order to access their property. So there is some other precedence in different spots. Now, that's not to say that's what you should do this one. I just keep pointing out other areas that either have a similar challenge or have been required to achieve a crossing. So
Does the Army Corps come in play on it?
I don't know on those ones. I don't know whether Army Corps.
We did have to do the stream alteration permits on the crossing by the charter school, and then also Vineyard subdivision had to do the stream alteration and work with the Corps as well. So yeah, and the Corps will be involved down on the Ballard Springs issue as well. So they do get involved. They do have some rules and things, but I do, one thing I do want to comment on is that part of the reason why a lot of this area is left white and unlandscaped is because it is in the floodplain and it is in the, it's got the open water there. And so it doesn't work for them to be able to use some of it for their density or their project because of a couple of our rules. So some of it they can, but most of it is off limits. They could, though, if at some point in time development occurred on the south side and they wanted to go across, they would have to get their stream alteration permit and their delineation for the wetlands and whatnot, and probably do some mitigation, and they could get it through there, but it would be.
But there's no motivation for them to do that. There is motivation now. If the city decides that that's an important part of this development. So the city could end up footing the bill for it too. I just can see 87 lots or 87 homes in a commercial building with one egress onto a very busy street. I think we ought to take advantage of this street that's already existing and tie into it since it's so close.
What's the advantage? I'm not sure what.
Two egresses.
Yeah, what?
Well, you've got an egress directly out to Providence Lane, and you've got then your existing egress would be to Spring Creek Drive. So you end up with two egresses. You know, for two reasons. One for cars, but this is mixed use, so it's 5 to 10 minutes walk from services. And I don't see many services getting there 5 to 10 minutes if you've got to walk out to Spring Creek and then walk down the road and around the corner. If I wanted to go to Macy's and I lived in your property, then I would want to go directly across and not all the way around. I mean, I don't think that's
I see
unreasonable.
what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, ideally, of course,
Yeah.
to have foot traffic ability, and I mean, not cars in my mind, because it's a private community. We don't want a lot of cars driving through where kids are running around. It's a little community that car traffic would be, I think, very it wouldn't save anybody time to get in their car and drive through there versus going around. And we'd only have, or any significant time, maybe 10, 15 seconds in a car. And then you have a lot of people driving through that aren't coming through to the destination of the development. So there'd be a heavy traffic pattern through there. And then it's wetlands. We can't build on that. It's protected wetlands, and it doesn't make sense. I don't know if it makes sense for the city to do something like that. We looked at it very early on. We had this discussion very early on about this project and this process, and it was just kind of ruled out.
There's still,
Totally does it
there's
wrong.
still a potential egress in the west.
Yes, that is our goal, is to have some kind of egress to the west, but it would be
Hard to tell what's gonna happen.
hard to tell. I mean, I was actually requested the city to have a
Right.
potential egress connection there. We don't know what will happen there.
But Ryan, with that, what looks like a road to the south there, to me, just looking at the parcel viewer, it looks like there's 5 other property owners other than the developer here that they touched that road, and I can say quote unquote road, because it doesn't seem like it's delineated as it's private, but maybe they have an agreement with it, but it would seem that if
I think they have a development, right?
Yeah.
I think it's a development similar to what we'd have through ours. But I think that's, I mean, having driven on it, feels all right for a road. It drives like a road. It's definitely a road. For all intents and purposes, that is a road.
Does it belong, does it fall into the city's responsibility
I
today?
don't believe it's city owned,
Okay, so it's privately maintained.
but
It falls into the public domain as a road.
right.
So we could assume that it is public.
The only difference would be is that we're not plowing it, and they have to, as a group, they have to maintain it. But you're right, it is accessible, public accessible. The question would come is what happens. So if you don't require a road, if this development occurs and he has to finish to the end of his property with a road, he only builds one side. Oftentimes we have it built to property lines, and so this one was able to end because of this property line. So then who builds this side if this one? Eventually a bridge to here, but the whole bridge is contained within inside of property owned. I'm saying this one here, it doesn't. You don't own both sides of that, so that makes it unfortunate on developing for you now, or potentially for them later, depending on that trade-off. That's the pluses and minuses you talked about. It's just pointing that out, but the bridge would be completely within inside the property. I would guess based on seeing this, but so
Yeah, we want to do a commercial building there that wouldn't allow for a road to go through. If we're going to do anything here in the future, we want a building on that, not a road on our property. It kind of makes sense for that to be finished as a commercial.
So you're talking about, if that road everyone's talking about that goes through the
Can
parking lot.
I point at something?
Please do.
just make sure you talk loud enough to.
Okay, I'll try and talk loud enough. This is wet in here and wetland protected and very difficult to develop. This along, the closer you get to the stream. This area here could potentially have a building someday on it that shares parking here
Right.
as part of the retail development. And then there may be access to here someday, but who knows?
What about the parcel to the east of what you were talking about?
Here,
Yeah,
very, very wet in this area as well. But I think the building could be here and maybe there as well, smaller. This size because of just the soils condition, some office buildings. Or some, I'm envisioning maybe, we haven't planned it yet, but maybe a building this size there. That makes sense.
so
And access would be from that road.
Yeah, but I mean, this would be something I could just try and sell to, because this owner that
Right.
maybe wants to do something. I don't think we're not retail developers in a big way, you know.
So I've got a question.
Plus, I don't know that they would,
That triggers.
I don't even know if we have access. Are we sure we have access through there? We have an easement through,
That is part of that subdivision. So you have the cross easements, yes.
So this application and our approval includes both parcels 4 and 5.
it
How-
needs to
how
not
would-
include them, I think.
No, it does.
Oh, it includes both 4 and 5, yeah.
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 Mixed use development, final plan analysis, the staff report to us identifies parcels 4 and 5 as being part of that mixed use final analysis. So if that's part of this, how does, and it's really a question for staff. If they want to put commercial buildings on that in the future,
Maybe we can.
how do they do that? Don't they have to get zoning approval get a complete new zoning approval for that to do that?
Probably.
That's something we would just face later. You know, it's not something we're asking for approval tonight.
No, I know that we're gonna,
Meaning I was talking about potential plans, but I'm not saying that I know that we could do that or anything like that, yeah.
well, in any future development, it would be subject to the
Mixed use
Current.
code.
rather than the old mixed use development code. Okay, I just wanted to make sure I understood.
Because those two lots are part of the Spring Creek Village subdivision, would they be subject to whatever agreement was in place with that development?
The easements are in place, but the zoning was changed, but that didn't change any of the dedicated easements or anything like that. Because the plat was not, the Spring Creek commercial plat was not amended. Just the zone was changed for those two.
Okay, so if we understand correct, any activity that would be done on those two lots on the south side of the creek would require coming back, the owner to come back in, possibly request different zoning.
It would depend if they wanted to develop it as mixed use and they could
Yeah.
continue their plan with the 50/50, they could be able to do that. If they couldn't, then they would have to apply for a zone change.
But even if they didn't, and they could do something on the 50/50 plan, at that time, roadways, all of those issues would be addressed at that point.
For the improvements for those two
For
lots.
those two lots.
Yeah.
Because I guess what I'm getting at is, we've seen this before, it's come all the way along, the changes have been made, we're at this final stage. I think we looked at those in the past, that any activity on those would be something dealt with separately. Am I wrong on that?
It's mixed use. That's what we're talking about, those parcels, along with the big one.
Yeah, and it's a part of the approval aspect.
Yeah.
But nowhere along the way in the past, as this has progressed, has it come up with the staff and the developer or in the city in any way? I don't think it has in the planning commission that we address the issue of a bridge or.
Well, actually, it did.
We talked about it.
It did, but the developer held pretty firm with the idea that they wanted to keep the traffic
Right.
from becoming, they didn't want to have increased traffic in the townhome portion of the
Right.
development.
Right.
What was talked about pretty until the end, the final result in the preliminary plat was a footbridge. There had been talk about a footbridge, so there was at least pedestrian traffic. But then when it all came down to the final plat or the preliminary plat, finally the planning commission agreed and the footbridge was not required. So
It was addressed before, but we didn't make it a condition of the development.
no.
I second the motion for the final plat.
I'm pulling back on my.
Oh, you are.
Yeah, I'm not gonna.
Well, I think as we revisit it and understand, I think we can't ask for now things that we didn't require before. Or is the door open for anything we want to do now? To the commission, or is that something we think?
I actually would like to know what the CCNRs for the Spring Creek Village subdivision, which lots 5 and 6 are, or excuse me, lots 4 and 5 are part of that subdivision. I was thinking the CCNRs would address what rights for ingress and egress those lots have across the
Yeah,
city.
when we went through this very early on in the process, the only thing that came up was we reviewed all of these matters was life safety. And so we had to go meet, the requirement from the city was to go meet with the fire chief and come up with a life safety plan, and there'd be.
Well, that's staff's requirement. I'm saying what I'd be interested in is what do the CCNRs say
The CCNRs for
for that
The
subdivision?
Spring Creek.
Because
In regards to, are we required to build a bridge or, in regards to what?
anything, I don't know what they
Oh, you're
say.
saying the CCNR generally, what are they? Yeah.
What are they? What amenities do those 2 lots have? Do they get to use that road? Their obligations on that road? It's just an open question that I think, if we're going to do good planning, I can tell that Brian would like a road through there, if not a road, a pedestrian bridge.
I will tell you that in their original designs, they did need another access. They ended up reducing the number of units. I can't remember, Ryan, can you remember the original number of units they had? I think they reduced it by almost 50%, and every unit will be sprinkled. They've done quite a bit to not have that life safety requirement for that other access.
To
So
meet life safety requirements, yeah.
because you didn't put the other access in, you wouldn't have had to
Yeah, it
do
was
all of
either-
that
it was
if you'd have
either
had.
or, Yeah. It was
yeah.
either or.
It was
Right.
either reduced down or.
I don't remember it being a reduction of units in my memory. But
I don't know
remember
if
being-
you
it was
were,
just- we had
Adam.
that- we had that.
I don't think you were involved in it at that point in
Okay.
time. I think that was prior to Adam.
They came in and said, what can we do with this property?
Yeah.
We had a big discussion about it.
So I have 2 questions. One is the staff's recommendation to move forward with approval of the final plat and development plan.
Yeah, that would be the staff's recommendation.
Okay.
I would have to defer to legal counsel on changing the plan at this point.
Sure, I understand.
So
Well, thank you. And
I'm curious, can I have one more comment? What if our residents don't want foot traffic from a commercial property? And typically this is what happens. They complain about foot traffic, car traffic, and it ends up being fenced. Wouldn't that ultimately kind of defeat the purpose of someone spending money and
It would,
it concerns me that you guys might go
it
down the
would,
road of
except
trying to.
it's a mixed use zoning, which says 5 to 10 minute walk from city service.
And I don't think that, again, I don't change the walk time much, but that's just.
Just out of curiosity, on that one, you're worried that the traffic that's going to the theater that doesn't live in the townhouses would go through them to get to. I'm just curious that you have a large population of residents, and large populations of residents will flow out. What's the drive or attraction from traffic on that street that are coming either to the movie theater or to restaurants to come from there into the development.
We're talking about when it gets, traffic gets busy at high traffic times in the city that they might try and cut through.
They're gonna, I doubt
Through
it.
our development,
I can't imagine it.
and it just happens, and it isn't great for traffic among a quiet town
But
home.
you could certainly put a stop sign before and stop traffic either way. But you're talking about a arterial road on the south and a major collector road on the east
I don't know what-
and the highway on the west. So, I mean, they're major roads. This
You're
is,
talking about you want to create a road that goes through a project.
well, no, I'm just a connection into it. I'm just curious,
Oh,
the chance that they would take that road to cut the traffic, I can't see it happening.
no, I have done a number of these developments, and unfortunately, it happens way more than we'd like.
I think the placement, I don't
Yeah,
think
just
so.
one, it just takes one or two cars speeding through and the kids playing, there and not expecting it, and an incident, and it happens way more than we like.
Well, I
I
think
don't-
in a lot of ways, the one thing that's missing from it, in my opinion, is a footbridge or foot access on the west side of your property for individuals that live there to get to those resources. Yeah, on the south end. So that's the thing. I think that's why I asked the question. And you mentioned it, that the footbridge was discussed before, all of that, but for whatever reason that got channeled out. Because I would think, if it's 87 units and half of them, there's families and there's kids, they're probably going to find a way going out of that back corner somehow.
You'd be surprised, I couldn't get through it. It's deep.
Yeah,
and
it
wet
is thick,
and
well,
it's beautiful land. Actually, there's
Yeah.
birds, and so it's
Yeah.
protected wetlands probably.
So more so the reason to have a footbridge, but that issue was addressed and
Yeah,
it
it's already
it
addressed.
was dropped.
Yep.
Allowing things to go forward is what I see in going through and reviewing the history, which brings us to where we are now. And I do agree, if there was going to be other development on those other two lots on the south side of the creek, then it opens the door. If you want to do something and build some buildings and make some money and that kind of stuff, we're probably going to come back and say, you got to put a
Do a
bridge there.
footbridge.
Yeah.
At least.
Somebody may say we want, especially it depends what happens on the west side where your roadway through may give them another way out. So, but I do think, that's my opinion, the lots to the south, if you come for something like that, I would realize there needs to be the footbridge for everybody to get, for people that live there to get in and out of there.
And lots 4 and 5, to me, become very sellable as soon as the development starts on this property. The Stadium 8, people that own the Stadium 8 got it under control. They run out of space. And so I would guess they'd be interested. And all of a sudden, now we have 2 owners. If you sell 4 and 5, now we've got 2 owners to deal with. The new owners of 4 and 5 and the current owners of the new development. Now we've got a real pickle, and everybody's gonna look around and say, hey, let's let the city do it. Just like they did up by the new charter school. Didn't the city pay for most of that? The bridge, the
City paid for the charter school.
So you want, I don't think this is something that really, I'm curious from a practical standpoint, what a footprint would do for anybody there. If ultimately our other neighbors are blocking off their property, there's not gonna be any through. Again, when I thought about this as a footbridge thing, let's find out where are they gonna go?
Macy's. They're gonna go to Macy's and they're gonna go to the bus.
Also, you're just concerned about our residents being able to
Yeah,
walk.
residents coming across here instead of going
Okay.
all the way out and coming around.
2007.
I think that's my
The
thing.
difference in the walk is,
Yeah.
if we go walk it, it's 3 or 4 minutes for a
Makes a big difference when
multi-million
you're
dollar
carrying
bridge.
groceries. But one thing I would say is if we were to, like, and I don't know if we can legally put in a requirement for a footbridge to go across there, I think we would almost be obligated to have a crosswalk go across 100 North at that place, because otherwise you're going to make pedestrians go to safely cross that very busy
Yeah.
road. They would have to
Yeah.
go back up to the roundabout or go down to the stoplight.
Yeah.
So think about, we almost need to say, we're gonna put in a crosswalk.
Have you tried to cross at the roundabout yet? I haven't. I don't want
Yeah,
to.
I have.
Yeah.
I walked to Macy's from Vineyard. And
Okay.
it's
It's not too bad.
it's not bad for me, but I like run if I need to. You need
But
to
he
be-
also takes about 20
What
of
about those
those,
that are slower than you?
20 of those orange flags as he's going
Have you
across.
seen people in Cache Valley's ability to use a roundabout or not?
It's not pretty.
Okay, we better get back on track.
Yeah, we thought we'd addressed all these things. Frankly,
Yeah.
we've moved a long ways on this development. These things were resolved, but
Yeah.
I, from a planning standpoint, I understand we're all
Yeah.
the ideas.
Well, I think we have a responsibility. I appreciate what you said. And if I, as a developer and building something, I understand that too. I think as a planning commission, we have a responsibility to do our very best to look at everything in the future and plan for that as best we can and do that. And so,
So you're saying, because we all came to a practical conclusion that it didn't make sense, but I also thought there was an underlying code conclusion that we're not required to
Yeah,
build a
you're-
road there. We're not
No.
required to allow a road. We're not
No.
required to allow a footbridge.
Right.
By code.
well,
We
did
talked
the-
about
We
it.
were supposed to have an integrated development, and that's the reason why the ordinance ended up getting changed. And if you want to know why, you would ought to have some traffic going in and out. That retail portion of your development has to be successful, or your whole development is out of compliance. Because,
We've already passed these, you're saying should have, but we've already done.
no, I'm telling you that the retail component has to be,
We want it to be
successful.
successful, yeah, we've already.
and so as long as they know that and they feel like they've developed a development that can make that work,
Yeah.
then that's the direction we are with that ordinance. But that's part of the reason why the ordinance was changed.
Well, and I think that's the thing, Adam, that there were some things that people looked for at first and things and which is that happens all the time, juggling and that kind of stuff, came to a conclusion. But as a part of that, the way that older ordinance is defined, which and also in that process, the city realized and some changes were made to fine tune it and make it
I
better.
see, so you're saying, I'm sorry if I'm a
Yeah.
little late to the table on this. This project is something the city said, wait, we don't like this, let's
No,
change the code.
I think I don't think it was that.
It was.
It was.
Really? Oh,
So,
man.
well,
Well,
yeah.
that's been changed a couple of times. One was a concept.
Yeah.
And then they came back with something closer to what we've got here. We
Yeah.
talked about the kids area, talked about the dog area, we
Yeah,
talked about
Yeah.
the bridge, the footbridge. And so we've got all of those on there except the footbridge.
But I think that the point though is that it does meet the ordinance.
Yes, yes. And that's where I said before, we all got to this point and we're ready to do the final thing here, which was really, hey, how are you? It looks great. Tip our hat, shake hands, go out and build it and make it successful. And I think that's what we're here for today. And I think some of these issues that came up now, as that I would just suggest, and with the understanding that as anything may happen on those others, maybe we would look for some of that. You know, I agree. I think the road going up and through there, there's a whole different thing. And then you got the wetlands and all this other stuff like that. But I think as anything else happens over there, these are things that would be looked at and that kind of stuff. And even when initially with the concept plan, with the dog run that was down in the very southwest corner, you know, I figured, well, kids are going to go there and they're either going to jump the fence or crawl under it or whatever. But anyway, and they'll swim across the creek and the swamp and the wetlands because they'll like that. It'll be more exciting than
We've had to remove that
Yeah.
by code.
Yeah.
That's something came up
Yeah.
with that being there.
Yeah,
Had to remove
and there
it,
was, yeah. So there's all those things I think have happened. And I'm very supportive of the staff and the detail that they go through and everything else. And I appreciate, as representative developer and developing, bringing this to where we did come together with something. And so that's what we're here for today. And so unless the commission, members of the commission have any other questions or concerns in regards to the approval of this final plat, where we have the staff recommendation for its approval, and we brought it to this point, I would say if there are no more questions, then I would say I'm ready for a motion.
I'd just make one comment to follow up on what Joe had said. I looked to see the CCNRs. I didn't find those in the record, but it does clearly say an ingress, egress, easement, and PUD for that road. So it is spelled out. So anyway, I didn't find CCNRs, but I did try to look for what you were trying.
You have to have access to limelight or whatever they call that. This city,
We have a paid subscription that I've gone through, so.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Joe. And Brian also, I think for everybody, I think this is good. This is a good exercise to go through, especially as we continue. There'll be more and more projects, more and more development. And we get a chance to look at that and fine tune and hopefully get really good at working together and getting everything best for the city and for the development. So anyway, I'll entertain a motion. Someone is prepared to do that.
There's currently a motion on the table already, so.
That was withdrawn.
So are you?
Withdrawn.
Ron Cecil seconded it.
I attempted to amend it on the fly too, so it's withdrawn. We can start over again.
Well, I move that the Providence Planning Commission approve the final plat and development plan for Spring Creek Townhomes, a mixed-use development containing 87 townhomes units and 7,324 square feet of retail office space
Okay. General area.
located in the general area of 265 North Gateway Drive, with all the findings of fact, conclusions, and conditions that have been stated.
You're doing just awesome. I have a motion for final approval, the final approval for the final plat and development plan. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. I have a motion and I have a second. Motion by Cecil, a second by Brian. All in favor, say aye.
Before there's the vote,
Yep.
can I exercise a personal privilege or? So when this gets approved, will the plat have a restrictive notes on lots 4 and 5 that they are part of this mixed use development? So that if they go to develop it, it's commercial in the future, that it's subject to that unless there's a zoning change.
I think that note could definitely be added.
I,
That's not something that would cause them, that's just piping on a line.
my concern in saying that is in 3 years or 2 years, I'm off of here. And without a note on the plat to that effect, making it very clear, the next planning commission may consider as part of the commercial subdivision and just approve it carte blanche without realizing that it was part of this mixed use development. So I would ask to amend the motion to include that there be a note added to the plat, final plat, to the effect that it's clearly part of this mixed use development.
I agree to that.
Does he need to restate it or no, or we just agree that this would be added?
I think he's made a motion to amend, so it'd need a second and a vote.
We have a second motion. Motion by Joe and for the amended, for the comment to be added, and a second by Rowan Cecil. All in favor? Aye. So all in favor for the amendment to it, and do we need a vote again for the, okay, let's vote again, so there's no question. All in favor of the approval of the final plat and the development plan with the comment on the final plat, recorded plat. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion. Yeah, item passed. Thank you very much, Adam.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
And your frankness on the discussion.
It's planning's a hard and interesting thing. I understand what the challenge you guys all face. Thanks.
Thank you. In closing, I want to thank the staff right off the bat for all their input in helping us get to where we could see things and all that. Scarlett and everything, I really appreciate that. It helped us to look at it, and thank you to better understand it. We had two last minute items that we wanted to touch on. One is the upcoming training in February. Yes, Scarlett?
Are you going to address item number one, or I mean, item number two?
Item 1 and 2.
Because you,
Okay, you're absolutely right. Let's take care of that. With this one thing I would say with this individual, and we were really at this point probably with this applicant in the experience we've had where it's been on the agenda multiple times, and I understand the gentleman's schedule and things like that, but let's focus on it from a standpoint of regardless of this applicant, any applicant that would continue to have their items scheduled, notices, anything, all the work that's involved with it, and then not be in attendance or not to contact the city and staff if at the last minute something prevented that. How many times do we continue to roll it over and go through that process again and the expense of that, however, to whatever degree that amount of money is or time and effort is. So I guess that's where we got to, and the applicant made it to that meeting, but we're starting this again. And so my question to put forth is really, with this, can you help me understand our options at this time? One is to say we'll just roll it to the next time. One is to do, help me with what my three were that you mentioned to me.
You can pass it to council with a negative recommendation and let them know that you don't recommend the change, that you didn't have sufficient information from the applicant to show up or whatever that might be. I would let them know some of the reasons why. So you could do that. You can table it until further. And at that point, then wait until they come back and do show up, and then they can reschedule that.
Do they have to be here?
I don't think they have to be there. It's just precedence whether you act on an item that they're not interested enough to show or unable to attend, or however you view that. There's a lot of information that comes from the applicant it's missing if they're not here.
Right. So we explored, we're talking about Dave Becker, is that his name? Dave Becker, to the issue and about the ADUs. And I believe what happened last meeting was that it was elevated beyond Dave, and we talked about it. I learned about it, and it was like the ADU setbacks and the regular all the setbacks. There was a guess when the ADUs were put in, what number would be correct there. And now it's not Dave's, Mr. Becker's issue, I don't think. It is now the Planning Commission issue that we need to decide. They brought something up and we don't necessarily need Dave. In that situation, I think we would be right in saying, Dave, thanks for bringing it to our notice. You can come if you want, but we're just going to move ahead. And on Dave's, on Mr. Becker's one, I would like to move ahead and just discuss it and move on, because it's elevated beyond Mr. Becker's request. it's not a request by Mr. Becker.
Well, if I understand correct, he's made a request to change the setbacks because he doesn't meet the setbacks as they exist today. So it's very important that he show up to make sure that what he's done can be successful, or you have a situation where if we don't do anything, he's in violation of the setbacks.
Right, but if we do something, and in this case, we're looking at statute change, right?
We're looking at this, yes. And
So if we go ahead and make the statute change with his suggestions, and taking his
Yes.
suggestions into account, I think that we're doing this, we're doing the city and the people of the city.
right.
I think we're doing them right.
Well, and that's why we had it as a public hearing today, which we didn't have anybody show up to really discuss it or anything. So it's really kind of left in our lap then of what we would do.
But you still would have to go through the process of opening the public hearing, asking for comment, closing the public hearing, and then taking action on it. You just can't,
Right.
because no one's here.
Not do it.
Well,
Yeah.
didn't we do that today?
No, we tabled both 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Or not table, we put them towards the end of the agenda, which we're addressing right now.
Okay, but to have a public hearing on item number 1, the staff did their part. They let people know, right? The advertising, however you do it. And so we got the turnout that was public hearing. So maybe we ought to do the public hearing today. And then
We open it for the public hearing.
So we would open it.
Yeah,
Take the
I'll
comment. Yeah.
Open, yeah.
Okay, so just help me so I understand the process we need to follow. We'll open it. There's no one here to make any comments, so we would then close the portion of the public hearing.
You do have some public here, so.
Yeah, but he said he wasn't gonna say anything.
you've got 30 minutes, come on up.
3 minutes. 30. So, and then what?
And then we close the public hearing, we met the requirement.
So, okay, we've met the requirement of doing it, but we haven't then discussed, may take action on the request to amend. So that the first one is simple. The second one, number 2, are we then now going to discuss that issue of possibly requesting to amend an action to amend the accessory dwelling unit setbacks?
I would then, after the public hearing, make a motion that we table it to the next meeting with him getting notice that this is the last time we're gonna do it, and we'll act on it without it. But in fairness to him, give him an opportunity. He may have forgotten. People make mistakes. I make mistakes.
He called in this past week, if I remember right, again, but I understand. And I would rather err on the side of giving the benefit of the doubt and people chances.
We don't have to go through a public hearing again. We're done.
We would open and close
Right.
it. So, and then we would just table this item till the next meeting.
I think you go through your procedural steps rather than talking about your procedural steps. You have a motion on the table in a second.
So we
To
have a
open the
motion.
public hearing.
Okay. So we have a motion, all in favor to open the public meeting, public hearing. Item number 1, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, the motion passes. Anybody want to make any comments?
I move we close the public hearing.
I have a motion to close the public hearing. We have a second to close it, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Motion passed.
I move that we table item number 2 until the next meeting to give the applicant a chance to discuss his application.
And notify him that we'll act on it without him next time.
Right.
And we break the precedence a little bit and open the door up to the possibility that people aren't going to show up. We'll go ahead and discuss without them.
Or something like that.
Yep.
Something like that.
But that's a tradition. That's
Okay.
not a.
So I have a motion now to table item number 2 Do I have a second?
Second that.
We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion to table item number 2 for the next meeting passes. Item number 6 that's not on your agenda is just really to remind everyone about the upcoming training here in the Valley. February, I think it's, I remember what that is, February 9th, Tyler, and there's a morning session and an evening session or afternoon.
Afternoon.
So we just wanted to just make sure everybody got the information, know that we encourage everyone to attend that. If there's any questions that we can help out with or do something.
Was that the night of the planning commission meeting?
Yes,
So if you go in the evening session, then you wouldn't be here, right? So the morning session would be something.
There's a 1:30 session, I think, and a 6:30 session.
Yeah, but it's the night of our meeting as well. So, okay.
We could move our meeting time to.
Well, I think we're building up a pretty good agenda. So, but
Ryan, are you submitting names for the training? Who would be submitting?
You register.
you register, I signed up and registered.
I've already registered.
I would ask if we don't need me as a voting member, it would be much better for me if I could go that evening. So if I'm not needed as a voting member that night, I would ask leave to attend.
Will you zoom in and be available to us at any beck and call?
While I'm,
You can only zoom in one way.
Mr. Chairman, we've been discussing this, and that this is felt to be interesting enough training to go to. What's the matter with having our meeting next week? So you have a lot of stuff on.
We've got a public hearing. Do we have a public hearing scheduled for next week?
February 23rd.
The 23rd is that one, the
That'll be
next
the
public
public
hearing.
hearing. So we'll be having a meeting that time for sure.
is that the word?
That's
That's the rezone, or not the zoning.
Yeah.
What about Alicia Perry's?
I have that on hold. I was never informed that she wanted to move forward
With the multifamily meeting?
with her backyard.
Yeah.
Okay.
So are we gonna have her on the 9th? Or will she be the 23rd as well?
You have to have her on the 23rd
Okay.
because you won't have enough time
For the,
to probably notice to the 9th.
I might notice in 10 days.
You might be able to, but
If you notice it this week.
what else do we have for the 9th?
do we have anything else coming up for the 9th? Critical?
We might have one preliminary plat, but I don't know if we will yet or not.
We
So
don't know, so it's really open right now.
So you might cancel that one and plan for the 23rd if the training's that important.
Well, I think it is, and I think to help, because I believe Brian's got to go in the evening.
No, I
Or you said you could do either.
Good boss.
So since we don't have much on the agenda for sure, do we want to go ahead and cancel that meeting, set everything for the 23rd?
Cancel the night, go down to
Cancel
the
the
23rd.
23rd. All in favor? Everybody okay?
Okay.
So let's plan to do that. And then the last thing that we had just to mention, which was a good idea, was if you haven't done it on the Providence City website, we go to the departments, go to the Planning Commission. On there, you will see our responsibilities and duties, and it's basically a review of the bylaws and so forth, and our responsibility and duties and so forth. So, Tyler, that was mostly for you because being a new member, and then all of them recommended I do it since I don't really know what's going on. So, but I'll look at them again too and so forth. There's a lot of good information here to help, and I think we'll see it from the training we
I
did as
think
well.
we need to give Cecil some time, maybe 3 or 4 meetings to, indoctrinate us on, the ins and outs and the nuances of sitting on a planning commission.
All right. Anybody else?
I
Any-
move to close this meeting.
Hey, can I have a second?
Second.
Got a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Nay.